Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a great day so far. So today I'm going to be reviewing some luxury items I picked up last week or in the last week or so. So I'm going to be sharing with you my thoughts on the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush bronzer. I'm going to be showing you my thoughts on this stunning Chantecaille Radiance Chic Cheek and Highlight duo. Of course, I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on the stunning and insanely sought after Divine Rose 2. And finally, lastly, but by no means leastly, my stunning new Jimmy Choo lipstick. So if you want to know all the tea on these luxury products, then keep watching. So let's start off with the glorious Divine Rose 2. Now there is a whole story. I'm going to try not to blind you because this is a mirrored palette, but maybe I'll open it, maybe that's a better solution. So there is a whole story. Me getting my hands on this palette, particularly getting my hands on this stunning rose gold version of this palette, was a whole traumatic experience. I'm not going to go back into that because I did a whole video about my experience trying to get, and successfully in the end, although who knew that was going to happen, not me. But yeah, getting this was a lot of work, a lot of stress and a lot of drama, but I have a whole video about that. If you want to check it out, I'll link it somewhere above. But yes, let's focus on the product. Now she's here, let's focus on the positives. So a lot of people have been asking me since they know that this arrived whether I prefer this or the original Divine Rose. Now bear in mind, I've only had this a few days. I've been using it every day, using all the colours to make sure I can tell you my whole thoughts on the palette. But you know, I obviously have owned Divine Rose for a lot longer and loved her for a lot longer. She is a mess, let me tell you. So I think the most useful answer I can give you to the question of which one do I prefer or which one do I recommend you pick up. So this is Divine Rose 2 and this is Divine Rose 1. They have similar colour stories, as in they are both very feminine, lots of pinks and purple tones in there. What I would say is the easiest way to kind of define them as different is that I feel like Divine Rose is the muted daytime, better on lighter skin tones version, and Divine Rose 2 is the brighter, evening, bolder, more suited to sort of medium and deeper skin tones. That doesn't mean that if you're deeper skin you can't wear this one, or if you're lighter skin you can't wear this one. Of course you can. I just feel like the looks I've seen on women with deeper skin and men with deeper skin using this palette, it's just so bold and bright and glorious on deeper skin tones, and this one is much more wearable, I guess, for lighter skin tones. But again, if you just love the bold colours, this is obviously your jam, then you know it's completely up to you. But I feel like this is the daytime softer, more muted version, and this is the brighter, bolder, more exciting, depending on who you ask, version. I will say that this palette really surprised me, like the mattes in here. So these are the two mattes, there's only two actual mattes. They really surprised me. I mean, Pat Mattes sounds like a rug company. Pat's mattes are always great, but I feel like these mattes are her best. Like they are the mattes that, of all the, I think this is my 4th or 5th palette. These are my favourite mattes that she's done. I think they're just amazing, amazing quality. I think as well, a lot of the shades in here are just so much more wearable than, again, that they look. I think a lot of Pat's palettes are that way. They look so intimidating and bright and colourful and bold that you may think, oh, it's intimidating. But actually on the lid, you can absolutely get wearable daytime looks, many different wearable daytime looks out of this palette, as I'm hopefully going to show you in my demo. But these two shades here are just so wearable, and because they're so smooth, and yes, they are shimmers, but they are a more muted shimmer that you can certainly use kind of in the crease, or certainly on the outer V, or to blend as like a kind of transition between your mattes and your more impactful shimmers. That gives you you know, extra options. So you have got only 2 mattes, but then you have those 2 kind of backup shades, like as a sort of in between before you then get to the really insane, utterly glorious shimmers. I'm not going to spend too much time swatching these shades because I feel like we have all seen these swatched 100 times. But yeah, just to show you, there is a big leap, you know, from these sort of more muted shimmers. If you're more of a daytime look kind of person, you want something a bit more soft, and then you've got these stunning out there shimmers. Where's my wipe? As I feel with most of Pat's palettes, this is definitely a cohesive palette. You can definitely make lots of looks without needing any other palettes or any other backup shades or any other crease shades. I feel, again, Pat's mattes, I feel ridiculous saying that, they are like mattes within mattes, if that makes sense. I feel that they're so buildable and diffusible and blendable that you can sort of use them as almost 2 different shades. You can use this one very lightly and then build it up on top of itself and almost have 2 different shades, and the same goes for this one, can be used very, very lightly and then really deepened up to a very deep, intense, smoky effect. So you've kind of got more options than you think looking at it. Again, I know Mel mentioned this gold as like, it's a little bit random it being in there. Maybe it would have been better to have, you know, a more rosier tone in there. I can't really see me using this shade. I agree with Mel. I can't see me using that one that much, just because it doesn't necessarily feel as though it goes with the rest of the palette. This shade here is just stunning. It's got a sort of rosy shift to it. I mean, again, this one up here, it looks quite gold in the pan, but it has such a gorgeous rosy gold tone to it. I mean, oh, I love everything about this palette. I'm absolutely loving it so far. I'm so relieved and happy that I ended up getting the limited edition packaging that I wanted and I really didn't think I was going to get. But yeah, it's been an absolute joy and a treat so far. So without further ado, let's get into the demo of this eye look and show you how it looks on the eye. So here we are, a plethora of options. Don't even know when I look at this palette like where to start. It's just, I mean, look at this shade. It's just insane how it's green and then it's pink and then it's purple. What is happening? So I'm going to go in with this lighter peachy matte at the top here first, and my Rephr 16 brush. This matte in particular in this palette really impressed me. Like Pat's, I mean, all of Pat's shadows are amazing, but I feel as though the mattes in here are like her best ever mattes. I just found them so easy and like they blend like butter. Like I don't have to be careful, I don't have to think about it. They're just super easy to work with. Like I don't need a specific technique, I don't need to have a certain lightness of hand or use a certain brush. Like I feel like these are definitely her best mattes. Pat at her best for sure. Oh, are you joking? What? Another bloody fly, just got one out. It's ridiculous. This is definitely like a shadow where you could just whack this, you know, all over the eye, slap on a winged liner if you feel like it, and for like every day, for like, you know, a school run day, this is enough. So I'm now going to go in with the Rephr 15 brush and the deeper matte in the palette and deepen up my crease. Literally, I'm touching in these shadows. They are just perfection as far as pigment, but at the same time, it's not too much to where like you put it on and then have to spend like a day, you know, blending it out. It's just, they're perfect for me, like pretty foolproof, because they give me the impact that I want, but they're not intimidating, you know, for someone with very little skill. And this palette is definitely one of her more versatile, along with the original Divine Rose, where you can easily do like an everyday soft pretty look. You know, I could easily now go in with like this shade up here or this down here, or even like this sort of rosy gold shade on the lid, and it would be a very soft wearable shade for every day. But then obviously you can also go absolutely bonkers. It's definitely, again, one of her more versatile palettes. I feel as though maybe Mothership 5, or obviously you can get a more toned down look. You could just use the mattes and not a shimmer, but the Divine Rose 1 and 2 seem to me like her most daytime friendly, as well as having crazy impact. So next I'm using my Bdellium 776, just going on this outer V with that same shade to deepen this up a little bit. Now, just so you can see a couple more shades, I'm going to take this absolute stunner up here and use this on the kind of middle of my lid. Generally I would have just gone in with the Sextraterrestrial, but I want to let you see a few more shades of the palette, because I feel like everyone is obviously wanting to show that shade off, but this shaded here is like everything. It's just so pretty. And again, either of these shades, these like sort of more muted shimmers, these two are just everything, just so easy to use, so pretty and feminine, like, again, easy everyday soft glam shades. Like, I think, you know, you might get fooled into thinking this palette is like only good for like all out crazy colourful looks, but it's definitely can be soft and easy as well. And now I'm going in with this killer shade, the VR shade, and my MAC 242. I mean, it's even confusing because what I'm seeing on my brush is like not what I'm seeing in the pan. It's so weird. I'm going to use this on the majority of the lid. Definitely some fallout from this shade, but I did pick up quite a lot. So that's potentially, you know, my bad. But I was just excited to see what it looked like on my brush. I didn't tap it off either, which was a rookie. Oh, I would generally recommend with Pat's shadows that you do your eyes first, because obviously they are super impactful. So you may well get some fallout with the shimmers. Isn't that insane? You see how you look this way and it's green, and here it's pink. Crazy. So pretty. Wowie. Okay, so I'm using the other side of that same brush, and I'm going to use this gold here just to kind of lighten up the inner part of the eye. Just open the eye up, because that's quite a darker shade on the lid for me anyway. Under my lower lash line, I'm going to take this shade, which is the other kind of more muted shimmer, just again so we can kind of use as many shades as possible. And this is just my Zoeva pencil brush, and I'm just gonna run this under my lower lash line. These two more muted shimmers in the palette definitely can be used as kind of transition shades, or, oh, don't put it on your nose, or lower lash line shades, because although they are shimmers, when they're used on the lid, they're muted enough that you can certainly get away with them on the lower lash line. Next up, I'm going to go on with this shade in our corners to see how we like that one. Just trying to use as many colours as we can. Oh, that's so pretty. That would again be a stunning lid shade. That's so pretty. Kind of like a rose gold. So pretty. And then for brow arch, I'm going to go in with this shade up here. And we've used almost all of the shades in the palette. Perfect inner corner or brow arch shade, this. I love how she always includes inner corner / like brow arch perfect shade, because it's just like makes it, you know, a cohesive palette that you don't need to like grab something else, you know, to finish the look. It's definitely got like a sort of pinky shift, this shade. Very pretty. Okay, so I've just put on some of my Huda Beauty mascara to finish the look, and now you can have a close-up of my peepers. And this is pretty much every shade in the palette other than, I think, the bright pink and the very yellow gold. So next up, the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Bronzer. Now, I feel like I've had this a couple of weeks at this point, although, you know, time has just ceased to have any meaning anymore, hasn't it? So this is the shade Tan, and it is very large, as I'm sure you've heard by now. It's got glorious, gorgeous, very expensive, very luxury feeling packaging, and the shade itself is perfect for me. I tend to choose more sort of cooler, neutral toned bronzers, and although I feel like it is very warm, and it actually looks extremely warm in that kind of built up swatch, but I just feel like it's perfect for me in my summer skin. Sometimes if I use a too cool bronzer in summer when my skin has got a lot warmer, it can look a bit grey and a bit odd, and you can see the difference. So this is Tantalize by Marc Jacobs, and this is the Charlotte Tilbury. Can you see how much warmer the Charlotte Tilbury is? But it still doesn't look orange. So here is Tantalize. This is the Charlotte Tilbury bronzer, and let me tell you, as soon as I started using the Charlotte Tilbury, it immediately became my favourite bronzer of all time. Previously it was the Marc Jacobs. This was my favourite in the shade Tantalize. Absolutely love it. But I do prefer the Charlotte Tilbury. I just think I prefer the undertone and the shade on me, and it's just so buildable and blendable. You can literally just keep on going, keep on going, keep on going until you've got the effect that you want, and it is just so easy and blendable. I have heard people saying that it doesn't apply well on straight on top of foundation. So for my demo, I decided to apply it on top of unset foundation. So I'm wearing my Tom Ford Shade and Illuminate foundation today, and I did not set it so we can see how the bronzer works over foundation. I haven't had, I wouldn't say any issues, like it hasn't lifted up my foundation, it hasn't moved my foundation, I haven't found it hard to blend out if I apply it straight on the top of unset foundation, but it is trickier than over the top of set foundation, obviously, and I'd say maybe you have to go easier or more carefully than you would with the Marc Jacobs, which doesn't seem to care whether your foundation is set or not. It's just the exact same process. But with the Charlotte Tilbury, you want to be a little bit careful, but it really doesn't cause me any issues, as you will see as we get on with the demo. Okay, so I have a slight confession to make, and that is that I already filmed this part yesterday along with the rest of this video, the bronzer application, and apparently I hadn't pressed record. That's the rumour. So I'm refilming this on a totally different day to the rest of the video, just in case you notice any slight differences in makeup, etc. So my eye look is still the Pat McGrath Divine Rose 2, but I use the same matte shades in the crease, and then I use that rose gold shade that we used in the inner corners on my lid, and then I've added in my Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk liner, just so you know what's happening. Okay, let's redo this bronzer application. So as I said, I'm going to apply this over unset foundation. The reason being that I have seen people having issues with this bronzer when they're not setting their foundation. As you know, I rarely set my foundation. I prefer to just leave my foundation and have the beautiful glow. As I have normal skin, I don't need to set for oil control purposes, and I just love a very glowy, luminous base. So yeah, I tend to steer away from setting my whole face unless there's a reason. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply this bronzer over the top of my unset Tom Ford Shade and Illuminate foundation, which, as you can see, is a pretty glowy foundation, just to show you how it applies and how I generally apply bronzer over unset foundation. So this is my Sonia G Face Pro brush, and I'm just tapping it in. As you can see, there's a little bit of kick up. What you don't want to do with this bronzer is swirl your brush. I did that the first time I used it and there was a lot of kick up. So you just need to touch. It's very nice and pigmented. You don't need to swirl, you just need to touch. And then I just always start off by pressing the bronzer, because this is basically replicating a setting motion. So once you've done that, you've essentially set that area of your foundation with your bronzer, and then you can just buff as you would if you had set. So like I said, and as you can see, I'm not having any issues. It's not picking up my foundation. It's not, you know, being problematic even really to blend out, because I am very used to using bronzer on top of unset foundation. So I haven't had any issues with this bronzer over the top. I even forgot to press then and just straight away just buffed it over my cheek. And you can see it's not problematic to blend out. It's beautiful as far as its tone and the finish. I, along with lots of other people, have been very surprised by the Temptalia ratings. I'm genuinely asking whether she's like got a bad batch of this bronzer, because to me it just, mine just isn't performing the way that she's rating her. So I know she said it's a very like over the top flat matte finish, which you know would not be my cup of tea at all. For me, it's a very natural finish. It is a matte bronzer, but I don't find it really flat or, you know, problematic in that way. I find it very easy to blend out. If I use it on top of unset makeup, I don't have any issues with it. If I use it over set foundation, even more of a dream to blend out. I love how buildable it is, because with this brush it applies it very softly and diffused. As you know, I've got a very heavy hand with makeup. I'm not an expert. I'm not a pro at like blending or anything like that. So I have a very narrow, longer face, so I can't bring bronzer too far in. I have to be careful with placement of bronzer, and this just allows me to build my bronzer up to exactly how much I want it without kind of fear of like harsh lines or fear of going over the top or it being too much or anything like that. It's just the perfect amount of pigment. It's the perfect tone. You know, I get very, here's my arm, I don't know why I'm doing that. I do get very warm in summer when my skin catches the sun. In winter I'm always olive, but in winter it's more neutral olive, whereas in summer I do get warmer and warmer and warmer of an olive undertone as I tan. So for me, using a very neutral bronzer, it can end up looking grey on me. This one, it's, you know, nice and warm, but never orange and never like too warm. It's a very natural, it literally looks the shade that like my body goes. So if I'm using a foundation on my face that's lighter than my body, which is the case most of the time, then I can really like match my bronzer to my body and warm everything up and make everything look like I'm one person, one shade, rather than a detached head that I usually look like. I just love it. Like I said, as soon as I sort of got to know it and started using it, it became like my go-to bronzer, and I really don't love or want to pick up any of my other bronzers, of which I have, you know, very many. I just feel it's like very, very natural, totally buildable, very easy to blend out. I don't have any issues even when going over, you know, a dewy unset foundation. It's everything I look for in a bronzer, put it that way. So now for this cheek duo from Chantecaille. This is my first ever purchase from Chantecaille, and what a hit it was. I talked about this in my Will I Buy It video because I saw it and I thought it was glorious and stunningly beautiful, but I was very unsure that it was going to work on my skin tone, given that it's summer, whether it would show up or not. So here it is. This is the shade Coral. There are two shades. There's a pink shade and a coral shade, and you get a blush and a highlight, and my goodness, both of these products are stunning. Now you can see, and you can see on my cheeks, it is soft on me, but it's perfect. It's just very natural and soft and pretty. It's not bold, it's not in your face, it's not super bright, it's just there. I'd say if you're any darker than me skin tone wise, it wouldn't be worth the purchase because the blush isn't going to show on you, and because the highlight is more subtle, again, it wouldn't show as much or be as radiant on deeper skin than mine. So I think it would have been amazing if there had been a third shade in here, because I think the pink tone is more suited to light skin. This is maybe a medium skin, and there should have been a third option for deeper skin. But for me, on my skin tone, this highlight is glorious, seamless, stunning, and the blush is exactly what I kind of hoped it would be. It's just the most beautiful formula. This packaging is absolutely stunning. It's part of their Oceans collection with the aim of raising awareness of our gorgeous oceans and the wildlife. For example, this stunning manta ray that is on the front of this packaging. So I love the messaging behind this, and I just think everything about it is just so beautiful and luxurious, from the packaging to the product itself to the way it performs. It's just a treat, and I've hardly touched a single other highlight or blush since this arrived. In fact, I haven't. I've only been using this for like the last week. It's just a treat. Sorry, we're slightly working, or we're mainly working with natural daylight today, so I'm losing and gaining light just non-stop, which is fun. So you have a highlight and a blush. It's got that stunning pattern in there, which, I mean, I've used this like 3 or 4 times now, and it's still very much there. I doubt it's going to stay forever, you know, at some point it is going to go, but because it's that kind of baked gelée type formula, it is going to stay for longer, and you just don't really get any kick up. You just don't seem to be like using anything. I'm like, you know, rubbing my brush right in there and I'm seeing the product on my cheek, but it doesn't seem to have, like, I don't even know where it's come from. I mean, you can see my brush picks up a fair amount, but there's no kickback or anything. So I do prefer my Linda Hallberg 306 for this highlight, because it is one that is more natural. So I do want to pick up a little bit more product, but it's just, this is my perfect, like, dream type of highlight. It blends into the skin. It's the perfect shade for my skin tone. It's not too dark, it's not going to leave a cast, it's not too light, and it's just so natural and pretty. It doesn't emphasize texture. It's just a total dream. And like I said, like, it's just, you don't struggle to get your brush in there. It's the perfect size pan. It's not too small. It's just, yeah, heavenly. Just the right amount of glow for me, for like every day. So now for the blush, and I'm using my Sonia G Cheek Pro. Again, perfect size in here. Don't like need to be careful. Don't struggle to stay away from the highlight. And again, there's just no kick up. And like, you're really unsure if you've got anything on the brush, but it's just the perfect flush of colour. For me, on my skin tone, I'm wearing Tom Ford foundation in shell beige. I'm like a sort of medium to tan skin tone, like an NC40 is what I'm wearing, MAC in summer. So yeah, to me, on me, this is only ever going to be very subtle, and that's with, like, you can see I'm going in again and again, and it was just going to give me a very natural flush, which is like perfect and very Chantecaille, like, aesthetic. I just think it has the most stunning, like, natural luminosity to the finish of both these products. They're just gorgeous, natural, like the perfect pairing. That blush and highlight there, the perfect pairing. And lastly, but not leastly, this is the Jimmy Choo lipstick that I picked up in the shade Coral Kiss. It is just insanely beautiful. I have wanted to get this for forever, since I first saw it, since it first popped up, but they keep on selling out. So If it comes back in stock, I will link it down below, but it will be back, I'm sure. If it's out of stock at the moment, I'm sure it will be back. It's just the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. It's ultra luxurious, over the top, insane packaging. It weighs a ton, but I have been just loving it and just enjoying using it so much. I can't even tell you. So let's put it on. So now, last but not least, this Jimmy Choo lipstick. I mean, this packaging has this little sleeve with the Jimmy Choo logo on. It's like a suede leather, I don't know, who knows. And then inside, this gorgeous over the top bullet, I guess you could call it. It's like a wand. My son got hold of this when it first arrived and was like, can I keep it? It's like, categorically, no, you can't. Put it down. Like, it's so heavy. Like this gold bauble at the top. It's just the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Is it like convenient to go in a clutch? Probably not. But I mean, who wouldn't want to whip this out in the girls' bathroom? I mean, this is the actual bullet. I mean, yeah, it's unnecessary, but I mean, I'd say if you're going to spend £50 on a lipstick, you want it to be pretty unnecessary, you know? This is the lipstick inside with that insane, like, snake skin print. I die. One thing I'll say about this lipstick is it has a very strong, like, what they call Parma Violets scent. It's very strong of Parma Violets, and you can smell it for a long time. Like, I was getting whiffs of it all day. I actually put this lipstick on when it arrived, and then had to go on the school run, so I wiped it off because it's very bold, and I was like a bit much for the school run. So I took it off and I could still smell it. So if you don't like the smell of Parma Violets, if you don't like being able to smell makeup at all, definitely don't go near these at all, because it's a very strong, noticeable scent, like, the entire time. You can see that one swipe payoff is pretty impressive. One thing I notice about this bullet is it's very hard. Like, it's almost like putting your lipstick on with a spoon. And when I first like felt it, I was like, oh, it's like quite hard. And then it makes you think the lipstick is going to be, but actually once the formula's on your lips, it's super soft and comfortable. I mean, I'm obsessed. For a lipstick that's so expensive, like, you want it to be a wow shade. Like, I don't want to spend £50 on a nude, you know? I want it to be like a wow, impactful shade. And this is definitely that. It's just glorious. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts on these luxurious products that I hauled in the last week or so. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I would love to see you in the next one. Otherwise, take care for now. Bye.